Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. It's starting to get a little lean on me outside the courthouse in Manhattan.
What?
It's starting to get a little crazy, Joe Clark, out there. You have some senators who showed up, Tuberville and Vance.
Oh, yeah.
You got an attorney general from the state of Alabama who showed up to comment on the Michael Cohen testimony.
Don't forget about the AG from Iowa. She was there, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's getting a little crazy, Joe Clark. You're having all standing outside the courthouse, say, free that Trump. Here's Alabama AG Steve Marshall on Cohen.
30 years I have been a prosecutor and cared desperately about what goes on in our criminal justice system, and I have never seen in my career a greater perversion of the criminal justice system than I witnessed this morning. We had more questions about Michael Cohen's feelings than we did connecting him to any criminal offense. When I was a district attorney, I had the privilege of being able to work with Cy Vance. I know that his team reviewed these facts and rejected any effort to use the resources of this city to pursue a sham prosecution.
Cy Vance is a Democrat, and when it asked why he passed on it and Bragg took it up, he couldn't really provide a coherent explanation because he knows what we all know, that it's all politics. And the Cohen stuff, the Cohen testimony, I mean, it really was feelings, and it's like political gossip and sniping. Michael Cohen wanted to be chief of staff and had other delusions of mediocrity. I mean,
right. He's a disbarred attorney who's out for revenge because he didn't get a job at the White House. That's what he wanted all along.
It's really I actually the most interesting thing, and it's nothing to do with the law, but nothing about this case has anything to do with the law, so why even bother with that? Was the Cohen testimony, not that you can believe a word he says, convicted perjurer.
Yeah, convicted liar, tax cheat, and someone who is shopping a Netflix deal called the Fixer.
Right. He so wanted to be Michael Clayton, but he doesn't have the skill sets or the intelligence, including the intelligence. But anyway, but this is on Trump, too, because I don't know why he put that human stain around him. Anyway, if you believe Michael Cohen, or just for the sake of argument, let's say we believe him, I think it was interesting that he said that Melania is the one who came up with the sort of the locker room talk as the response to the Access Hollywood tape. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I think it's funny because it's just interesting to me because Melania is a bit of an enigmatic figure. She doesn't really grant that many interviews, and she's very guarded in the rare occasion when she does do a sit down. And I think she's probably sharper and tougher than you think she is. She probably knows a lot more and has reconciled a lot more than you think she has. Probably nothing that is coming out at this trial is a particular surprise to her and wherever the truth may lie.
It's 20 years old. I mean, come on. Or 18 years, whatever.
Yeah, right.
You know, she's processed this. She knows what's going on. She's dealt with it. And so this is old news.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think that's probably right.
Teflon is going to roll off her.
J.D. Vance, as I mentioned out there, I think he is the front runner for Veep.
Do you really?
I think so.
All right, let me hear him.
The thing that the president is prevented from saying, which is a disgrace, is that every single person involved in this prosecution is practically a Democratic political operative. The judge inside, his daughter is making millions of dollars running against Donald Trump, raising money for Donald Trump's political opponents. The number 3 person in the Department of Justice, Biden's Department of Justice, left to become a local prosecutor to go after Donald Trump. And of course, there's Alvin Bragg, a Soros-funded prosecutor who promised to go after Donald Trump and now is doing exactly that. Now,
for more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Scott McKay, publisher of the Hayride, contributing editor at the American Spectator. Or no, wait, he's gotten a promotion last time. He's now like senior editor or editor at large or editor
Tell us about yourself, Scott.
Magnifico or something. He's also the author of the book Racism, Revenge, and Ruin. That's his book. Scott McKay, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Editor Magnifico sounds really good.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think I got to pass that one along.
Yeah, pitch that up the food chain, you know. Tell us. Before we get to the trial, do you agree with me? Is Vance the front runner for Veep?
Well, I think he's certainly one of them, and it kind of gives me a queasy feeling because I think you can elect a Republican senator from Ohio to replace Vance if he ends up becoming VP.
Right.
I don't think you can get a Republican senator from Ohio that's as good as J.D. Vance. So, I kind of feel like it might cost too much to make him vice president. But will he do a good job as VP? Yes. In fact, I've got a thing at the American Spectator this morning talking about, Trump's VP selection and this idiotic Wall Street Journal piece that appeared on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to make Nikki Haley that because you get Nikki Haley's voters. And it's like, okay, Nikki Haley's voters are Trump voters unless they're not Trump voters and there's nothing you can do. She brings nothing to the table other than she's a George H.W. Bush, the same way Mike Pence was. And that is the one thing that we cannot make that mistake a third time, right? Because Reagan made it with Bush in 80 and 84, and Trump made it with Pence in 16. And, this is one of the reasons why Republicans have so much trouble converting the will of their voters into reality is you don't build a train of people who will, move the legacy forward. I mean, the GOP went 30 years in the wilderness with the Bushes running the place, and we couldn't fumigate them until Trump came along. That can't happen again.
You don't think as a governor and former UN ambassador or ambassador to the UN that she wouldn't do a good job?
Well,
I think she'd help undecided females in the suburbs.
Well, but Biden is losing those on his own, though. I mean, that's the thing between, the perception and I think reality of, the streets being unsafe and the economic problems, which are really just getting started. And they spent, I think it was $40 million on television trying to convince people Bidenomics was a winner. And it's gotten worse from a public perception standpoint. I don't think you need Nikki Haley to get suburban women. I think Trump probably just needs to throttle back on how caustic he is, and you probably solve that problem. Now, the Wall Street Journal did bring up Kim Reynolds, who I don't think is much of a starter because she was on DeSantis' team. But Kim Reynolds, if you want to get a female governor who's well accomplished and who is bought into the ideological mission of the America First movement, I think Kim Reynolds would be a really good choice.
Yeah,
I don't know if Trump can get along with her.
I like Kim Reynolds, but here's the thing. I mean, this has to be a huge consideration in this selection. It should be, and I think it will be. I hope it will be. You sort of mentioned it with J.D. Vance, and I would say if you're going to go governor, it's Sarah Sanders because Kim Reynolds is 65 years old, so she'll be 69 at the end of the term, and so you need next generation. And this is why J.D. Vance makes sense. This is why Sarah Sanders makes sense because you have continuity with the direction of the party. And you have somebody to hand over the reins who represents, handing off the baton to the next generation, which there's probably going to be more desire to see next time around than even there was this time.
Yeah, well, and I think to me that's the qualification for VP. It has to be somebody who is reliably, my term is revivalist, right? I don't want a conservative per se because I don't want to conserve the status quo. I want to fix it. And you have to have somebody who's willing to bear some slings and arrows and fight the good fight. I'm not interested in the, steady hand crowd, the Mitch McConnells and Mike Pences and John Thunes of the world. Do not do anything for me. I want somebody who wants to rock and roll.
Well,
because
because
Trump is not a permanent, he's not a permanent fixture in American politics. We're going to get 4 years out of him and then he's out.
Right.
And the left would like to make that much less than 4 years by any means necessary. And so you have to be, you have to be mindful of that, and you have to give them somebody as VP that scares them worse than Trump does.
Well, the other thing is, that's interesting. The other thing is, and this applies to Tim Scott as well, is, J.D. Vance has the ability to make this about sort of economic circumstance. I don't want to say class because I don't believe in class society. We don't have one. That's one of the great things about America. But I mean, he's the embodiment of that, as is Tim Scott. And obviously Tim Scott layers in race and his family's history in this country. So, I mean, I think those are important Horatio Alger stories that both of those gentlemen could share that make that broaden the appeal of the party and sort of return it to this idea of it's an opportunity party for an opportunity society, and we're getting away from identity politics and back to a meritocratic, achievement-based society, because that's what a free society should look like. That's why I like those two. I mean, Sarah Sanders fits it to some extent, but obviously she's a legacy. So like those three seem to be the three candidates who would add the most value.
I don't disagree with you. I think you need somebody who at least comes off, because Trump is not middle class, but he's got generally middle class sensibilities, right. And I think that you have to have that with the VP as well. You cannot just say, "Oh, here's my blue blood vice presidential nominee," because everybody is going to associate that with Bush's, and it's going to tamp down the amount of enthusiasm that your side has, which is a big deal because this is a pure turnout election, right? Like, I think Trump has an advantage with independents. He has an advantage with soft Democrat voters. But, like, the Democrats are not trying to persuade anybody of anything anymore. It's all about turning out their base, which they think is bigger than the GOP's base. And so you have to at least match that. And I don't think you do it if everybody looks at the ticket and goes, I like Trump okay, but this guy over here or this gal over here is same old GOP, and I'm not interested. You have got to fully remake the party, which has largely been done, but it's not finished, and you don't get any help from the Republicans in Washington, in the House and Senate, to move that perception along. So you need to hit a home run with the VP choice from the standpoint of, here is somebody who's going to carry forth an America First legacy. It's somebody that you can trust. It's somebody that, is very credible to hand the torch over to. Like, to me, I don't care about regional, does it pull voters from none of that matters. And I don't really care so much about, race or sex or any of that kind of stuff, although, some of that might be a little bit helpful. The most important thing in picking a vice president is somebody that they can say, okay, because what we're voting for here is maybe 12 years of draining the swamp and fixing this rather than just 4, and then it goes back to what it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's psychographics, not those demographics. I completely agree with that. The other thing that Trump is doing lately is putting the brand on RFK Jr., because RFK Jr., he just got on the ballot in Texas. He's tracking to be on the ballot in all 50 states. And you see the polling when he's added benefits Trump. It adds to his leads. And he had this to say in a quick snippet about RFK Jr. this week.
So RFK's views on vaccines are fake, as is everything else about his candidacy. He is not a Republican, so don't think you're going to vote for him and feel good. He's a radical left Democrat. Let the Democrats have RFK Jr. They deserve him.
Yeah, you don't have to vote for me. Just vote for the other Democrat that you like, not the Democrat you don't like in Biden. No problem.
Well, this is kind of almost like one of those old Claire McCaskill plays, right? Remember when it was the Missouri Senate race back in, 12, I think. And, her campaign ran a bunch of ads attacking Todd Aiken as too conservative for Missouri, and that ended up boosting Aiken to the point where he won, and then they dropped the hammer on him after he said something stupid about abortion. And, that was a race McCaskill had no chance of winning and ended up winning it anyway. This is a little bit of that, right? Like, Trump can spend a bunch of time attacking RFK Jr. as a radical leftist and see how many votes he can peel off of Biden and give to RFK Jr.
And especially
doing that. And
RFK
RFK Jr. will help.
He is helping.
He'll help.
So
RFK
Republicans I know are voting for him.
RFK Jr. is those aren't Republicans. RFK Jr. is helping Trump brand RFK Jr. Exactly the way that Trump wants to brand him. He's on with Sage Steele this week saying, "I support abortion full term." Right. So so you start to pin him down on these issues, as we know, as anybody who knows RFK knows, and he is way left on a whole range of issues. Just because he says some things about COVID that non-COVIDians might agree with, doesn't mean that he's on your side with a full panoply of other issues that are important to you.
That's right. Like, the only two things that RFK Jr. Brings to the table that make him, more interesting than Joe Biden, well, other than the fact that he's actually somewhat lucid, which, at least used to be a consideration to run for president. But what he brings is the guy actually believes in the First Amendment, and he, is not in the pocket of big pharma when it comes to vaccinations, particularly where COVID's concerned. In every other respect, RFK Jr. is at best like an old school Daniel Patrick Moynihan liberal. And the reason that those people are not all that prevalent in American politics anymore is because none of their stuff worked. They're the people that started this decline that the Obama Democrats have accelerated. And everybody knows it. Like, this is the reason there are no more Mike Dukakis running around. But that's what he is. So, painting him as this guy is a legitimate leftist, but sure, vote for him rather than Biden. Just don't vote for him rather than me. That's the right message that Trump should be spreading.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the Boston Brahmins are not ascendant these days. This just in.
No.
Scott McKay, publisher of the Hayride, a senior editor magnifico at the American Spectator. Yeah. Author of the book Racism, Revenge, and Ruin. Scott McKay.
Hey, Dan?
Yeah.
I got one more thing. I've got a novel out called King of the Jungle. Find it on Amazon. It's 4.9 stars out of 5 among the reviews. It's awesome. Maybe we'll talk about that next time I'm on.
Wait, what's the premise of the book? Give us one line. Tease us why we should buy it.
It's okay. So the book it's a satire. It's about a red-pilled billionaire who runs afoul of the Joe Deadhorse administration and decides to build a Shangri-La down in the jungles of Guyana, only to find that the Venezuelans are about to invade. And hilarity ensues from there. I'll send you guys copies of it. Y'all will love it.
Okay. All right. Scott McKay channeling his inner Tom Wolfe. Very good.
That's correct.
Very good, Scott. Scott McKay, the Hayride. Revenge.
See you guys later.
Racism, Revenge, and Ruin, the nonfiction, King of the Jungle, the fiction. Thanks, as always, Scott. Appreciate it.
Yes, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560. The Answer.
Pure Talk, my sponsor and my wireless company, of now providing international roaming to over 50 countries. Now, as you plan your summer travel, make sure that your wireless company covers you at home and abroad. Now, you can get unlimited talk and text, plenty of 5G data for just $20 a month. That's less than half the price of Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile for the exact same service. Dial pound 250, say the keyword save now. Do it now. You save an additional 50% off your first month. Make the switch to Pure Talk so you can afford to travel this summer.
And Doug.
Being a spokesperson's easy, kid. Just say, customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
Customize and save with Liberty Bibbity.
That's not it.
Liberty Mutual. Liberty Musical.
Nope.
Lumberty, line.
It's 2 words. Liberty Mutual.
Got it. Don't not pay at libertymuttnoodle.com.
Wow. I guess I'll just do it.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com. That's a wrap.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company.